Let's create our first project here. Let's do it within the demo folder. We click new, select project, give it a name, my first project, give it a description, be nutrient management, more detail as you like that describes the collective project, the project owner. This is someone you can nominate within your group, and this person will be notified via email when there's responses required from the verification process. And we can select the industry, so work in the sugarcane industry here, and the attachments here relate to project-wide attachments, things like the real property description, descriptions of the collective project works over the lifetime of the projects, any sort of overall project documents, so excluding the annual details because we'll capture those in each of the monitoring reports. So that's our initial project information. Now we've got to start collecting our baseline information before we can go through and submit monitoring reports. So the baseline, we're representing the 7 years of practice management prior to the project commencement. So in this case, we've got errors. We haven't defined the baseline for any of our years. We've got an error in year 1. So let's start with getting year 1 set up and we'll step through the other years. So here's year 1. Let's scroll down a bit and we'll see if we can't find ourselves a place to put a project. We're down here, South Innisfail will be good. Let's say this is our project area. So we're going to draw a polygon around our project area, or effectively the entire farm property is what we need to capture. So we need to capture the entire enterprise. And we can capture that through a series of polygons. There's the first polygon, and I'll draw a second one. As close as we can to the property boundary. So let's say that's the entire farm area. Now what we've got to do is create practice surveys that relate to those polygons. So if I scroll down further, each of our polygons that we've got captured there are represented in the table, and I can select and unselect them from this. So select all. There's issues associated with it. What I've got to do is edit the survey. So you see the instructions here, edit, just click the pencil. The surveys for each of the blocks in this year 1. So let's have a look at this first one. Yeah, it's a cane project as we said, and this is an area where the project is going to apply. And the other option is a leakage project. So it's part of the farm enterprise, but it's not subject to the Reef Credits project. So this is a project area. Let's go to the next, and I'm going to just quickly run through and select some practices here. Okay, so this survey is completed. Now we haven't completed the survey for the second block. We can have a look over here at doing some batch work here. So on the responses, so we've got this survey completed, but there's no answers in the others. So what I can do is update each of those questions as we go. Now if we've got some of those numbers wrong, maybe that's 110, not 120. That's okay. And we can also do some batch responses in here as well. And I can apply this just on the selected blocks or all blocks. So I'm going to go through this process. Okay, so we've completed that for all of our 2 blocks in this case. And let's have a look back at the overall summary, the area of those blocks, the total DIN load kilograms per year, and the sediment related. So we're getting sediment prediction here because the calculation is taken entirely from the paddock to reef projector, which also does sediment. We could have imported a collection. We'll get to that through a different video. So that's the P2R projector collection. So we've completed year 1. We've got a tick around that. So now we add a new year. Year 2. And what it does for year 2, it does a direct copy of whatever the previous year was. And we can continue right through. If our practices haven't changed, to get our full 7 years. What might have happened if we have a look at in year 5, we might have changed our application rates in this year to 160, 160, 160 everywhere. Let's do that. And let's apply to all the blocks. We can have a look at our summary for that year. We get a slightly different DIN load, so 14.3 and 48.8 if I have a look at a previous year. So slightly different numbers predicted there. So we're right through the end. Everything's got a green tick on it. So we've got our baseline represented. So now we can think about doing a monitoring report. So a monitoring report, we click a new report. And that new report, we need to be able to edit it, set that up. So we click the edit button. We define the year that we're doing the report for. This might have been for the 2021-22 year. What we need to do is then define any summary information. So what do we do? Let's say we applied this fertilizer. And we've got some attachments here to document that. That's the case. And we can represent the practice change. So what we've done here is the tool's taken a direct copy of your last year. So in this case, it was the last year of the baseline to represent what the conditions, the practice conditions were. Now let's do a bulk change of those properties and reduce our application rates down to, let's say, 110 kilograms per hectare. We'll apply that across all the blocks. Here at the summary, what we've got is a calculated rate, actually a fine sediment reduction as well, not that that matters in the initial calculation of reef credits. And at this stage, we should be ready to submit your report once you've got your attachments associated with it. And submitting the report means you've got to select a verifier. So we've just got a test verifier in here at the moment. So this verifier is someone that you've made a previous arrangement with, so it's a pre-approved verifier, so that the Reef Credit Scheme has approved the use of this verifier. It's from their list. They're available from this drop-down, and so we're good to go. We can submit that monitoring report. The verifier, they'll go through the process of checking and communicate backwards and forwards with you via the chat functionality here. If there's any chat, you'll get an email associated with that. So before you submit this, just take note that you've got to have approval from the Reef Credit Scheme Administrator for the project, and also approval for the use of the nominated verifier for that, and that you have to have commissioned those verifiers, so that's an independent cost. You'll have to pay them to do the review process. And at this stage, once the verifier has completed their work, so you'll be billed for using the natural capital credit application once you've got through this verification process. So only cancel out of that, and that's effectively the end of the annual reporting process. Now, what I can't do is create another monitoring report whilst this draft exists. So effectively, I've got to go through the submitting the monitoring report process. And once that submission has happened and that's in play, then I can go ahead and create myself another monitoring report for subsequent years. So if you're 2 years in arrear, you can complete the monitoring report, get it in the verification cycle whilst you're completing the next one.